can we assume, says Margaret in Cheshire, we will now be paying to rebuild the state of Palestine, accept millions of the people as refugees? Is this Starmer's plan? We need to get this useless, dangerous government out. And Howard says, you mentioned it was 8 degrees in London when you got up, still 6 degrees here in rural Sussex at 7:30. Yeah, well, it's suddenly moved into sort of autumn overnight, hasn't it? Because it was like 25, 26 degrees on Friday when I was driving around. We're going to talk to Andrew Montford now, Director of Net Zero Watch. There's a story in the Independent this weekend. The boss of Britain's biggest energy provider says households are facing higher bills because of a racket where wind farms are paid to stop producing power. There are 2,500 plus wind farms across the UK, many of them in Scotland, which are key to Labour's pledge to decarbonise the country's electricity by 2030. But Greg Jackson, the guy that runs Optimus Energy, you might have seen him on TV, he says insufficient infrastructure to carry electricity produced by wind farms is forcing them to shut down. So they put these wind farms up, but there's no actual, grid system, if you like, to move the electricity around, which is mad, isn't it? Andrew, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
I mean, I have to say, many people listening to this show and watching it will not be surprised to hear this, that it's all a bit of a racket. Tell us more.
So these so-called constraint payments are, they're at the front of public consciousness now, I think, because the story comes up quite often, and it does seem absolutely insane that we pay wind farms to switch off. But that is, and if you like, an unavoidable result of the way we've gone about decarbonisation. We've just said to wind farm companies, build, 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 and so they've stuck them in the places that are windiest, which essentially means Scotland.
Right.
But of course, the problem with Scotland is that there's not very much grid capacity to get electricity from the north down to England, where the markets are.
Right.
Now, the costs, because there are so many more wind farms coming on stream, those costs are meant to explode in coming years. We reckon that by the time Ed Miliband's plans come to fruition, if they ever do, those costs will have gone up by a factor of about 7. They're going to go up 7-fold. I mean, this is absolute madness. And of course, if we build all those wind farms as well, we also have all the costs of the subsidies to pay, and your electricity bill is going to go through the roof. In reality, I don't think it's going to happen, Mike. I think what's actually going to happen is that, once bills have gone up for another year or so, where the public is going to start having a conversation about how we stop it. And essentially, the only way to stop it is, one, to stop building new wind farms and new solar farms, and then to actually start closing down the ones we have already. That is the only way we're going to get back to cheap electricity.
Well, I mean, the thing I don't understand is why is it, I'm looking at a little graph here in the Independent where it says the payments made for a wind turbine switching off, the difference between 2024 and 2025 it seems to have almost doubled. Why has it gone up so much?
Okay, so there are actually two factors at play here. One is that there's not enough capacity in the wires to take the electricity to market, and as we get new wind farms brought onto the system, the costs go up because of that. There's also another effect that's starting to kick in, which is that when it's very windy and very sunny at the same time, the renewables fleet produces more electricity than the country needs. And so that's not allowed on an electricity grid. Supply and demand must always be equal. So we pay the wind farms or the solar farms to switch off for that reason too. Now, the problem with that second effect is that building new wires doesn't help you. There is no way of avoiding it. So we're starting to get an acceleration of these costs. And that's going to go on. That's why in 5 to 6 years' time, we're expecting there to be a 7-fold increase.
That's brilliant, isn't it? There's a great quote in here from the guy from Optimus Energy, Mr. Jackson, where he says basically it's like building a factory where there are no roads and then being paid for what you might have produced if there had been roads. I mean, it's a great racket, isn't it? Let's set up a business, don't do anything, get paid not to do anything, and then just go take your money all the way to the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the thing that people don't understand, I think, is that a lot of these wind farms can actually earn more to be switched off than they do to actually generate electricity. So there is actually an incentive for them to build in places where they're going to get switched off, they'll make more profits. So, this is absolute madness, as you
Talk
say.
about,
That
was
is
it
the way we've gone
voodoo
about it.
economics they used to talk about in Reagan's time? I mean, that really is voodoo economics. Start a business up, don't ever do anything, and just collect a subsidy from the government as if you were working. Amazing. Thank you very much indeed, Andrew Montford.